Hello, this is Whitney Ward, and welcome to Mountain Climbers, where I talk to people who have faced some pretty big mountains in their lives, but God has given them the strength to scale them. And for this episode, I am so excited to be talking to Tom and Mindy Martin. And I know that their story of God's redemption is not only going to bless you, but remind you that we serve a God who gives second chances and is the God of miracles. So, Tom and Mindy, thank you so much for being my guests tonight. I really appreciate it. So, I think we're just going to jump right in and give the viewers a little bit of a backstory. So, tell us, how did Tom and Mindy come to be? When did you start dating? When did you get married? Just give us that whole romantic, story.
Oh, yes, romantic. Actually, this year was 25 years, so that was a milestone.
Yeah.
Big miracle, but we actually knew each other in high school. He was in my sister Stacy's grade, and we didn't start dating, though, until after college. After I was out of college, we dated for a little while, and he had to go finish grad school. So that was before cell phones, so we kind of lost contact for a bit. And when he came back, he gave me a call, and we went out, and I had actually planned to move to Florida in the meantime. And so I said, well, you're a nice guy, we can go out again. And I went ahead and moved because he hadn't proposed yet. So I lived in Florida for a whole 3 months.
And that wasn't exactly a rock's throw away.
No, but he came down and proposed to me, and I was back shortly, and we were married in July. So we were only engaged for probably 5 months.
Oh, wow.
And it was, today's standards, that's pretty fast to put a wedding together. So we were married in July, and 25 years later, here we are.
Well, congratulations. That's definitely a milestone. So next question is, 'cause this is part of your story, when did the marital problems begin? Was it right after marriage, or was it years later?
Yeah, we spent some time thinking about that, Whitney, and how do you know what you don't have when you've never had it, right?
Yeah.
So, from the outside looking in, there weren't any problems. I had a good education, went and got a good job, and we worked hard. It's kind of, I guess we were kind of chatting about it before. I guess it felt like we were following a script.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there was something missing.
Yeah.
Right? So, all I knew was to do what I'd been taught, which was work hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that.
Mm-hmm.
I started piling jobs on. It's kind of like, well, you got a nice house, but why not get a better one? And to do that, you gotta bring more revenue in. And my answer to that equation was to go out and get a bunch more jobs. So I think by the time it peaked, I was, I had a full-time job at probably one of the better employers in the area. I had a contracting company on the side that we were pushing work for outages and stuff at other plants, and then I decided to get a side hustle because I wasn't busy enough doing computer stuff on weekends and evenings. So it was never home.
And I had started staying at home with the kids.
Yeah.
I was working part-time before, and we realized by the time we paid for a babysitter, I wasn't really bringing home much.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided at the time that I would stay at home. So I felt like I was all alone in this big trophy house that we had to impress everybody. Yeah.
So basically it sounds like that the key to your happiness was success. And all the money kind of you can get. Okay.
Stuff.
Looking good on the outside.
Gotcha. And you soon found out that didn't work.
It was just, neither one of us were happy. I don't think we ever didn't love each other, but we did not like each other.
Okay. So, was it just little things that, would pile up that would cause, arguments and fights?
Yeah. And it, when you don't have Jesus and you're trying to make your own happiness and joy, you're going to fall short.
Yeah.
So
yes,
I knew from my growing up in church that something was missing.
Yeah.
And, you know, God used some big stuff.
Okay, so you didn't grow up.
No.
Okay.
No.
You know, that's kind of looking back on it, though. You know, part of the recipe might have been a healthy dose of conviction, though. Mindy grew up with Tanya Ashmore, and her and David had recently married and had invited us to Rubyville a couple of times. And then, you know, another important stressor, I suppose, in all those kind of early years was we had a house fire. Lost everything, right?
Yeah.
So, and we had rebuilt from that and went big, right?
Yeah.
And we went big. But Mindy reminded me that we played church a couple of times at Rubyville. Not a church you want to play church at, by the way.
Right, because Dan Ashmore will put you in the front row.
Yeah, didn't even know better when we come in late that we get put up to the front of the church. But that played in well later, let me tell you. But the church was, you know, they were super generous. I mean, we didn't know. I mean, I didn't know what to expect. I mean, all of a sudden, you know, Mindy's telling me, the people at Rubyville. One of the first things we did, we literally didn't have a shirt on our back. Well, she says, you know, Rubyville just gave us money to go, you know, to go get clothes and stuff. I mean, why we settled out for insurance, and it was just like, what?
That's
Didn't know people did that, you
Yeah.
know. So you know, I mean, I'd been to service with Mindy and stuff. So I mean, I guess, I mean, there were people praying for us.
Yeah,
and
it's awesome.
And it was starting maybe to open up, you know, part of my life that, you know, that missing part that we've been talking about.
Yeah. Well, that's great, because that kind of leads right into the next question is, looking back, well, first let me ask this one, because this is an important one. I want our viewers to know. Did you actually ever separate? How close were you to filing for divorce?
We actually did, and this is something else we discussed. I do not ever want to encourage anybody to leave their husband. Okay.
Good advice.
But
Dangerous stuff,
it is, and God was in it.
Yeah.
Our story involved me leaving, and it was, you know, out of character, because, you know, my personality is just to suck it up and take it. It'll be fine. But God spoke to me. I actually surrendered in the same spot he did about a week later. We'll talk about that later. But you know, in the bedroom. But you know, I knew what was wrong, and I was like, I can't do it anymore. You know, my plan. You heard my plan. You know, it wasn't working.
Yeah.
So I heard very clearly, take your kids and go. I'm going to work on it. I got this.
Yeah.
You know, so I took the kids to mom's and left Tom a note and just said, you know, me and the kids are at mom's. I didn't really say I'm not coming back. So he called and thought we were just visiting.
Yeah.
And I let him know, no.
Yeah.
We're gone. I'm done. And it was a week or two. I think I had found a Christian counselor online. This is back when online was kind of new.
Yeah.
And found a Christian counselor in Minnesota, of all places, that would spend a week with us, a solid week. And God knew what he was doing when he led me to this man, because it cost a lot of money. And that was a pride point. You know, money was important.
Yes.
And, you know, I told him, I said, if you want me to come back, you're going to have to do this first. I can't, you know, this is what I need.
Yeah.
And he agreed, and we spent the most exhausting week in our lives in very intense counseling. But it was the turning point. It was. And I had actually called an attorney, just asking questions, and he was a Christian, and he said, I pray this doesn't happen, you know, and it never got beyond that first phone call. So, you know, like I said, I am not saying that wives, if you have a problem, leave, and they'll turn around, because our story is different than everybody else's.
Yes.
God is not, but our story is. So, you know, we actually were separated for about 3 weeks, and then after the counseling,
you laid a breadcrumb trail down there that I follow up on, because you said it, you know, that you given up. You surrendered to the Lord. And we found out after we started comparing our stories later that prior to me like agreeing to pay the bill to go out to Minnesota and lay this all out to somebody, I'd gotten saved. In that
awesome.
that big empty trophy house.
That is great.
And it was the same place that she'd gotten saved a week before. Didn't know much, but I knew that that this train wreck that I was experiencing was just a testimony to an empty life, and I wanted him. I wanted the Lord, and
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. I do want to go back. I want to ask you, Tom, when you came home and you read that letter, what were your emotions? Like, did you think it was for real? Like, she'll come back?
I knew it was for real. I mean, when things pick up steam in life and in the wrong direction, I mean, you feel it. I mean, it's like a slow motion train wreck, right? And I just knew that all this stuff wasn't sustainable. I mean, you can work and work and work, and you just can't. I mean, you can't work your way out of something that's meant to be, and that's to find your Creator, and surrender to Him. So, didn't know what that was at the time, but I mean, when she told me, it was just like, the gig's up, you know, and I mean, it just. All it did is just confirm the emptiness, So, that's about right. Because let me tell you, I mean, even unsaved, one of the most precious gifts that God gives men and women are their children. I mean, because I mean, I loved Mindy the best I could, and I loved them kids. I mean, your kids get you past yourself, whether you know the Lord or not. So I mean. I knew that they were worth changing for, fighting for, doing what I had to do. Didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
But He's good.
Yes.
The Lord's good.
He is, and that was kind of proof to you that confirmation. You did hear right from God that you were supposed to do that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was kind of.
And it was,
to you.
it was, and another thing that we really want to stress is, be careful who you confide in.
That's great.
And
Very
that
nice.
was one of the first things that our counselor told us, when you go back, everybody's gonna ask, what happened. And, you don't have to share everything, especially with family. Even if they are the best Christian solid, it makes it really hard because I came back a week later ready to go back home with him. And the ones I had confided in were questioning me, but they didn't see what I did when we were gone.
That's great advice.
And there are big ripple effects from who you share too much with.
That's great advice. Even like for anyone.
Oh
yeah.
I remember the guy. He told us a lot. And I mean, it seemed like a long time, 40 hours to talk about your stuff, right?
Yeah.
We've actually asked married couples that have been married longer than us that. How many hours have you really spent talking about your stuff in all of your marriage? And they'd say, we'd be hard pressed to say that we spent 40 hours. But one of the things that he told us was be jealous of your wife or husband's reputation. In spite of everything that you're going through, protect them.
It's very profound.
And I tell you, some of the other questions I think maybe you were getting to. I guess. Jumping ahead, sorry.
Hey, it's your show.
But no. I mean, it's one of the things that we've come to realize is, I mean, the Lord, the Lord will let you go through some things, right? I mean, free will and all that, but the promise that He can work it out in the end is it prepares you to help others with insight.
Exactly.
And one of the things that we just wanted to make sure. Because people will have troubles. I promise you, go into this thing called marriage, and you will have troubles. But the strength and value of a godly, impartial third voice, counseling. I mean, if you're having trouble, get some help.
That's great.
I mean, because the devil just loves to put the boots to couples that are either too prideful or too scared to tell somebody that they're having troubles. Now you got to be careful. You got to
Yeah.
find safe, mature people
Mhm.
to confide in, like Mindy was saying. But get some help. You know.
Yeah.
One of the biggest lies that I believed for a long time was there was nobody that survived our issues
Oh yeah.
intact, you know, and Satan will tell you that.
Yeah.
Whatever you're dealing with, nobody knows what you're going through.
Yeah.
Nobody can relate. Nobody can help you. You're beyond help. And,
It's hard.
you know, that's not true. It's really not true.
No,
not at all. Not at all. So,
Yes, yeah, that's very wise. So we kind of have gone over this, but kind of just really want to dive in. But looking back now, what things do you see God use to get your attention and ultimately lead you to Rubyville, led to your salvation? What are those kind of things?
right. I think of messages I've heard about the staff, and you know, you're writing life events on your staff, and I think some big important things, because we were, I think, pretty typical, which who wants to be normal, you know, in that, you know, we wanted to look good, but you know, God loves us enough to get our attention,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and one of the big things that I couldn't get away from, and I hope I can do this without blubbering, but you know, my father passed a week before we got married, and it was just, you know, it was just kind of surreal, and my mom had told us something the day of the funeral that I couldn't get away from.
Mhm.
You know what you have to do if you want to see your dad. He was a Christian, and you know, at the time I was just like, really, Mom, you're saying this now?
Yeah.
I'm getting married next week, and
Yeah.
really, you know, but I couldn't get away from it.
Mm-hmm.
But I shoved it
Mm-hmm.
away. You know, when we got pregnant with Wade, you know, that was the plan.
Mhm.
You know, get married, have a baby.
Yeah.
I had severe preeclampsia with him. Had no idea what was going on, but everything was shut off. No television, no visitors. They
Yeah.
thought I was going to go into a big stroke anytime, and
Mm-hmm.
that was pretty traumatic. And you know, I heard God,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't listen. I was okay. We're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So I'm good.
Yeah.
That'll come later.
Mm-hmm.
And then our first house that we bought, we were there for only 4 months, and it was a miracle that we weren't there, but it burned completely to the ground. Everything we had, even the truck in the driveway, was gone. And, you know, God's talking.
Yeah.
Listen a little bit, you know.
Mhm.
Then we got the generosity from the church,
Yeah.
so we started coming to church a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, okay, it's time for baby 2.
Yeah.
So everything's going great, taking care of myself,
Mhm.
and 35 weeks in, and a head-on collision, and here comes Becca.
Worst
You know,
possible thing.
yeah, and it shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
It was a bright sunny day on a straight stretch, and we were hit head-on, and I was in the ditch when it happened, trying to get away from him. You know, so just again, kind of in a daze, but what, you know, there are no lasting effects from that wreck. I have some back issues, but I'm fine.
Yeah.
Becca is fine. Wade is fine. He was in the back seat, and my mom is fine.
Yeah.
She was with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so those were big things.
Yeah.
But the thing that shoved me to my knees was my plan was falling apart. You know, it wasn't looking like I thought it was supposed to look. Everything, we had done everything. We'd gotten married, had the kids, had the house,
Yeah.
and it was so empty. So be careful. God will use some tough stuff to get your attention.
Yeah, definitely. That's true. So, how long was it after the fire and Rubyville helped you, you know, get your life back on track with, you know, the clothes and everything you needed? How long was it before you got saved and started attending regularly?
The house fire was in, Becca wasn't born yet, so it would have been in 1997.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she would, you know, we started coming, not, you know, Sunday mornings.
Yeah, yeah.
A couple Sunday mornings a month, probably. And then when the wreck happened, I got a lot of, just a lot of love from the church.
Mm-hmm.
And, that affected me. And then, of course, it was, Becca was 3
Mm-hmm.
when we separated, and Wade was 5.
Yeah.
So it took I'm stubborn.
Years.
Yeah.
Really.
So
we played church for
we
years.
played some church, and kept everybody at arm's length pretty much, and just let them see what we wanted them to.
Mm-hmm.
And then we surrendered finally in 2001.
In 2001.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you say it was a week apart? Is
Mm-hmm.
that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
Spring of 2001.
Yeah, in the spring. It was right around the kids' birthdays. They were both born in April.
that's exciting.
And I remember that was one of the hard decisions that I made to leave, because it was around their birthdays.
That would be
And I
hard.
was like, maybe I should wait. And God said, no, it needs to
Yeah.
happen now. So, big things happened in the spring.
Looks like it with your family.
Yeah.
Well, did all of your issues resolve after you accepted Jesus, or did it take some time?
Oh, well, if anyone out there has been married more than a day, they know that you can work on issues, and some things are easy to put down and let go of.
Yeah.
But we all have stuff
Yeah.
that I feel like I need to say, one of the biggest surprises out of our week in counseling was the whole week we did not talk about our marriage.
Oh. Okay.
And it is shocking.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
were there for our marriage.
Yeah.
We talked about our family of origin, our memories, what we experienced growing up.
Formative years, really.
And
Wow.
it answered and connected so many dots. Like, I would have moments when I'm like, oh, that's why he reacts negative when I say something that is, just different triggers.
Yeah.
So we all have a different journey, and maybe different hot buttons, maybe different struggles that sometimes you're doing better than others.
Yeah.
But it was after that, divorce is off the table. That's not an option.
Yeah.
So I feel like
We stayed in counseling for several years.
yeah, we did. And I think it's important to stay accountable to somebody, because it's real easy to get lax and in your relationship and not really pay the attention that you need to. And there's different seasons of life. Like right now, empty nest is hitting us pretty hard. I think it's probably hitting me harder, or Tom's just dealing with it better. But there's just different seasons that
They
you
might come back. I came back.
right? I mean, Becca comes back every other weekend or
That's
so.
okay with me.
Yeah, but it's just, you have to continually work on the relationship.
Yeah.
But, the big issue was now Jesus was part of it.
Yeah, well, that's what I would have had.
Yeah.
Once we got the Lord, once we got saved, perspective changes.
Yeah.
We started building our life out from the Lord, whereas before we didn't have a foundation,
Yeah.
But afterwards, we built it around Him and His church. That was a completely new thing for me. You asked me today, you said, hey, what's Tom Martin about? Tom Martin's about Jesus and Rubyville, and it's a church and a church family is such a stabilizing thing.
Yeah.
And it helps, it helps. There's things obviously that husband and wife, keep between them and the Lord, but when you've got that good foundation, it just changes the perspective on everything.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, we're still healing up. We're still working through stuff, and I suppose that's kind of the whole point. We'll get our healing someday.
Yeah.
But I know right now, we're where we need to be.
That's good. And I think that's good for young couples to hear that, you're always going to have to work at it. It's not just going to be easy. And that
We have not arrived. No.
No.
Yeah. And that kind of falls into the next question. What advice would you give to young couples who are having mineral issues?
Wow.
We kind of went there with the counseling earlier.
Yeah.
Get help.
don't try to do it on your own.
Yeah, don't
And
wallow in it. I mean, you're setting yourself up for the devil.
Yeah.
You know, it says he goes about like a hungry lion. You know, that's a predation model. You know, if you watch a lion in the wild, I mean, he looks for the ones that are all by themselves.
yeah.
You know, so I mean, there's help. I mean, all you got to do is swallow your pride a little bit. You know, talk to your pastor. I guarantee that they know somebody.
Yep.
I mean, it's kind of like, you know, they're in church, and you know, where there's a church, there's people. Where there's people, there's problems. So he's just waiting. He's just waiting to help. So that's the most important thing. If anything comes out of this little talk, you know, that'll make sense out of some of the stuff we went through, is to just get people past that hard point of just asking for some help.
And that probably is the
That's
toughest,
it.
toughest
Oh
thing
yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would advise, you know, before you get married, you know, go do the stuff that we did, you know, so you're not hit blindsided.
Oh yeah. Hey, you know, that's a good point. You know,
That's
we were
very
talking
good.
about, you know, the kids and the generational aspect. You know, pay attention. You know, to the older married couples around you. You know, ask for some advice. You know, I mean, sit and learn some stuff from them. You know, there's all kinds of good ways to maybe get some questions answered to help you when the tough stuff comes.
That's great. I know people who probably need to hear that, definitely. Well, I'm super excited for this last question. So, share your beauty from ashes. What blessings has God given you that otherwise probably would not have happened if your marriage fell apart?
Wow.
It's kind of the whole point.
Where do you
isn't
start?
It? Yeah. I mean,
It was that summer after we were saved that Wade got saved at VBS, which was 18 years ago. And then 2 years later, Becca got saved. And after our counseling, you know, we had decided that we were going to renew our vows and we were going to have a whole new start. Different anniversary date, different everything, you know, start fresh.
different people getting married, right?
Yeah. And that was one of the things that Tom said to me in our vows, was that if nothing more than for us to raise the kids in that church and knowing Jesus the way we should have or could have, you know, that would be enough. And you know, God is always bigger than what I don't think is big. Tom's a big thinker, but you know, I can't wrap my head around what God has done. I mean, after the kids were saved, Becca started singing. I mean, I remember the first time that Cal let her sing on stage, and it, you know, she sang in the highways and the hedges. And Tom played guitar for her, and she hasn't stopped.
No,
you know,
she's so anointed.
Oh my goodness! And that's what she was made for.
Yes.
Wade is a different personality. He is a leader, and you know, he plays up there in a godless university, playing baseball, and he leads a Bible study every week, and you know, just really encourages those other, you know, some of them don't want any part of it. You know, he's excited. He's like, maybe this year we can afford to do maybe hamburgers and hot dogs, and maybe if I feed them better, they will come. You know, he has a heart.
That's awesome.
He's just a gentle spirit. He's really a lot. Well, both the kids are a lot like Tom, but Wade's more of a, I don't know. He's got great qualities, but you know, in 2005. Tom answered the call to preach.
I remember that.
And he had on a nice little dress, remember? In the vesper.
Yeah, you gotta unpack that.
Yeah, he was dressed for a vesper. And
it was a robe.
He was robed. But, you know, I never would have guessed.
Yeah.
You know. And then, gosh, what year was it? So you started preaching in 2005, and I think it was 2009. The Mines property was obtained, and you know, we're looking at year 10 for the Cabinet of Choices, and you know, almost 1,000 people have been saved just through that.
That is amazing.
And maybe it has hit 1,000. We're just not aware of it, because when you leave that, you don't you're changed.
Oh,
Even if
yeah.
you're a Christian, you
Yeah.
leave changed. And that's the whole point. We want people to think about,
Yeah.
you know, those choices and consequences. And, you know, I mean, when you serve a great big God like we do, you know, I think we do ourselves a lot of harm if you don't just open yourself up
Yeah.
to his possibility.
Yeah.
And I mean, all of the stuff that we went through, and our counselor told us, you know, before we left, he said, you've gone through this for a reason. And allow yourself to be used. I had no idea, you know, it was just like, what is he talking about? And it, you know, it's kind of scary, but kind of exciting because you just don't know. I mean, why else are we here?
Yeah.
You know, if it wasn't about reaching others and helping others, then we would all immediately go to heaven after we were saved, you know, but we're still here.
For such a time as this.
Yeah. So, you know, between the Cavern of Choices and the Christmas Cave and, you know, just all the people that I'm just always blown away at how everybody just comes together and God provides people that we never would have. And it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
That was perfect timing. They have the right skill set. They have that, you know, they have that burden for the lost. And they have this fresh energy because sometimes we need that.
Yeah.
A lot of times we need that. You know, and I mean, just like some of the things that are happening right now, we're getting ready to do a big electrical project that
I saw that.
is
Exciting.
yeah, and you know, God's the through the Soda Tech School.
Oh wow!
I mean,
that's
just
so awesome.
things that, you know, God puts everything together, and you know, I always say that Tom's got a notebook full of ideas, and I'm just trying to keep up with him. So.
You're very creative. You are.
I don't know about creative now. I like to organize.
Yeah.
But he is the brain, and the creative sometimes scary. But he's plugged in, and you know when he said something about the Cavern of Choices, you know, I was like, you want to do what? You know, I was like, how is this going to happen in the Christmas Cave? But you know, when you allow God to lead you.
Yeah.
I don't think I did a good job of explaining the whole minds thing. I think he thought I was just getting it literally for a man cave.
No, I thought it was a big playground for him, you know, and I was like, what are we doing? You know, I didn't know. I didn't have the vision that he did.
But you could bring the details together.
Yes.
And that's why it was perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, but to your point, I mean, who would have thunk? I said it, you know, in those vows all those years ago, you know, when he saved us, I just thought, you know, what a great thing. I don't have to go to hell.
Yeah.
You know, I get to raise my kids knowing Jesus.
Yep.
And that really would have been enough.
Yeah.
It really would have been enough. But he's done that and so much more.
Yeah. And I think we all can say that we don't have to go to hell, and that's enough. And the fact that he uses us is just an added bonus here on earth. And I do want to add this, that I have been honored to volunteer for the Cavern of Choices.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I've also had the honor to walk through the Christmas Cave. Both events are totally anointed, and they're awesome. And the Cavern of Choices is in October. Do you have dates for that yet?
October... keep talking. I'll get the date.
Okay. So the Cavern of Choices is in October, and the Christmas Cave is during the Christmas season. And just go to that. I mean, not only will you get something out of it, but you'll also see what God can do. He can bring beauty from ashes.
Yes.
Do you have the date?
October 12th and 19th. We do 2 Saturdays.
Okay.
I think we typically start at 4 o'clock and go through 10 o'clock. So we'll actually... We're going to get started on that soon.
That's great. That's so exciting. So, yes, definitely. Put it on your calendar even now. Just make plans that you're going to go do it.
Yeah.
So, thank you guys so much for talking. And I know that your mountain might not be like Tom and Mindy's, but hopefully through their story, you've seen we serve a God of miracles and second chances and redemption, and that you'll be reminded that when your strength comes from the right source, there's not a mountain you can't climb.